Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 12:05 p.m. on Thursday, the 9th of April 2026, and it's a glorious, beautiful day here in Brisbane, Australia. I'm outside in the garden with my handsome, gorgeous, sweet little birdie boys, and Rati, my caseworker, just left, and she was happy. She's always a happy-go-lucky, sweet soul, always smiling, always full of joy, and it's inspiring. It's inspiring, and I'm blessed to have such a lovely person in my life. We all need someone who's just joyful and emanating light, don't we? And I used to be that person, being joyful for everyone else, but I've kind of fallen in a heap in recent years. So I'm grateful for those who are sharing their abundance of peace and love and light with me, and helps me to carry on, soldier on this mortal coil. So I'm just watching a scrub turkey digging up the mulch that the lawnmower man threw down when they were last here, and making himself a bit of a nest in amongst probably the moist, rotting mulch. It's probably cooler, so it makes sense. And all my little scissors that I arrived with, all the various shapes for cutting the edges of paper. So I'm happy about that. They're only little cheap plasticky ones, so I actually don't know how long they'll last, if they'll be any good, but there were 8 pairs of scissors with different patterns. So I'll just pick a design to do the edges of my grimoire pages, and if they break, they break. They didn't cost a hell of a lot. So there is that. So yes, life's pretty beautiful today. I've been busy on YouTube comment sections, speaking truth, and conferring with people across the world on our current world paradigm, and it's been dark and heavy, but I finished up by reminding them that today is a beautiful day, and you just got to stay grounded in ordinary reality and enjoy the beauty that surrounds us when it still surrounds us, and balance out the good with the bad. Yin and yang, as the Chinese the Taoists like to say. So I thought I'd continue on with yesterday's story, which I cut off because I was in too much pain and I was drifting. And there's no actual cuts in this story, breaks in this story, so I just had to randomly decide where I was going to break off. So we broke off at, I'll repeat the last sentence. The doorbell rang again, and Zhen Bao guessed that it was his brother. He was having tea with Jiao Rui, who just spat out her tea. And she said, in China you have Chinese freedoms. You can spit on the street if you want. It's the only thing about Chinese culture that I find really abhorrent, is the spitting everywhere. It's completely vile, but that's to my westernized mind, you understand. And maybe even in China it's not so customary anymore. But anyway, I don't know, I've never been to China. I haven't been to Japan either. There's many places I haven't been to. Probably never get to see in this lifetime now, but that's negative thinking. I could win multi-millions on the lotto and travel to every country on earth and every sacred space and every tourist destination. I'd be a nervous wreck the whole time, but what fun I shall have. Let's think positive and create a new world for myself, even if it's only locked away in here and not yet manifested, people of Earth. So anyway, we'll continue on. It was in fact Dubao, and now that he was back, things took a different turn. Later on, Zhen Bao reviewed the whole scene in his mind. Out on the dusky balcony, he hadn't been able to see her clearly. He'd only heard her soft voice secretly rustling, tickling his ear like a breath. There, in the dark, her heart-rending body slipped out of his mind for a moment, and he had a chance to see what else there was to her. She seemed smart and straightforward, but with the emotions of a still maturing girl, even though she was a wife already. Well, it takes until you're 25 for your brain to fuse together and actually reach maturity, or so they tell us. Makes sense though, because when I was young, it was traditional in New Zealand for us to marry quite young, and it worked out for some people and didn't work out for others. But my advice is wait until you're 25 and your brains fuse together so you know what you're getting into, people of Earth. If I had my time over again, I would take that advice. Not that anyone gave it to me when I was 19, by the gods. Only one woman looked at me funny. Didn't even know her. She was an acquaintance of my husband's. Actually, married to a friend or acquaintance of my husband. She just looked at me and she said, "Are you sure you want to get married so young? Are you really sure?" And of course I was all rose-coloured glasses and thought I was in love. I was in love, I was. I proposed to that man twice. I proposed. So I was in love, but what is love to a 19-year-old girl or an 18-year-old girl as opposed to a 61-year-old woman? Takes on a different flavour over time, especially after decades of abject horror and trauma. What is love anyway? What's love got to do with it? True love is the greatest blessing in this world. Anyway, I never got to experience it, if truth be known. It was always a charade or a masquerade or a deception. And I try not to be bitter about it, but that was the cards the gods gave me. Fake men and fops. Some of them flops too. Some of them very floppy and vapid indeed. David Davidson just yelled out, "Never mind, Tanya, one day your ship might come in." Well, you know, David, how I feel about sailors. Oh, you have to laugh. Got the Crow family up above my head, preening after their bath. Lovely. He's laughing too, I can hear it echoing back. Well, God bless. Life goes on, and it truly can be beautiful, but often it starts with just deciding that you're going to somehow miraculously make it beautiful, and sometimes it's a fantasy that can't be manifested, and other times it just clicks as if by magic. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and that's all there is to it. Right, where were we? That for him was her most appealing feature, that she was still girl-like. There was a danger here, a danger much greater than simple lust. He could not, must not get serious about her. It would only be looking for trouble. Maybe Maybe it was just her body after all. When a man yearns for a woman's body, then starts to care about her mind, he fools himself into believing that he's in love. Only after possessing her body can he forget her soul. This may be the only way to free himself, and why not? Jiao Rui had a lot of lovers, one more or one less. It wouldn't make much difference. He couldn't pretend that Wang Shihong wouldn't care, but then again, it wouldn't make things any worse than they already were for him. Suddenly, Zhen Bao realized that he was digging for reasons to justify sleeping with this woman. He was mortified and resolved to avoid her from this point on. He would look for another place to live. As soon as he found something, he would move. Zhen Bao asked someone to help him get a bed for his brother in the dormitory at the technical school. With only himself to look after, things were easy to arrange. He'd been taking his lunches at a restaurant near the office. Now he went out for dinner too. He stayed away until late at night and went straight to bed. But one night, the phone rang for a long time and no one picked up. Zhen Bao had just run out of his room. Oh, what happened, Kermie? Oh, it's just the paper fly. Okay. What can I do to stop that from happening? Just one moment, he got a terrible fright. I'll just fix that problem. What happened? Is the paper flying everywhere? All right, don't worry, Mama fix it. Mama fix it for you. I see someone's chewed all the paper up. Little rascal birdies. Little rascally birdies. Yeah, good boys. Right, where were we? Zhen Bao had just run out of his room to get it when he thought he heard Jiao Rui's door opening. Afraid of running into her in the dark hallway, he better retreat. Jiao Rui was groping around in the dark, seemingly unable to find the phone, and since Zhen Bao was right by the light switch, he turned it on. He was stunned when he saw Wang Jiaori in the light. She was wearing pyjamas made out of a sarong fabric often worn by overseas Chinese in Southeast Asia, and it looked like she had just come from her bath. The design on the fabric was so heavy and dark that he couldn't tell whether it was snakes and dragons or grasses and trees, the lines and vines all tangled up together, black and gold flecked with orange and green. Night deepened in the house. The dim, lamplit hallway felt like a train car travelling from one strange place to another. On the train, you meet a woman quite by accident, a woman who could be a friend. Jiao Rui lifted the receiver with one hand, the other hand searching along her side to find a little golden peach stone button and slip it through its loop. She couldn't get it to button properly. Zhen Bao didn't see anything, but he was shaken. His heart hung in mid-air. Jiaorui had turned sideways and swept her loose, uncombed hair back across her shoulders. Her face was shadowy and golden, like an idol's. Her lowered eyelashes cast long shadows that touched her cheek like the fingers of a small hand. She'd been in such a hurry that she'd lost one of her leather slippers. The bare foot rested on the slippered one. Zhen Bao noticed a trace of heat rash powder on her ankle. Jiaorui hung up the phone. It was a wrong number. She stood there unsteadily and sank into a chair, the phone still in her hand. Zhen Bao put his hand on the doorknob to show that he didn't intend to chat. He nodded. "How is it that I haven't seen you lately?" he said. "I thought you'd melted away like candy." He knew, of course, that it was he who'd been avoiding her, not the other way around. But jumping in before she'd had a chance to speak was a form of self-defense. It was tiresome, no doubt, but when he saw her, he had to flirt. Some women are like that. "Am I so sweet?" she replied nonchalantly, feeling around for her slipper with her bare foot. "I don't know," Zhen Bao replied boldly. "Haven't tasted." Jiaorui gave a little laugh. She still couldn't find the slipper, and Zhen Bao couldn't stand it any more. He walked over and leaned down to pick it up for her. But just then, her foot slipped in. And now he was embarrassed. "Where have your servants gone?" he demanded, for no reason. An old hometown neighbour came to visit the major domo and Amma, and the three of them went off to the Cosmo to have some fun. "Oh." Then, with a smile, he said, "Aren't you afraid of being alone in the house?" Jiaorui stood up. Her slippers scuffed along as she went toward her room. "Afraid of what?" "You're not afraid of me." "What?" she said, without turning her head. "I'm not afraid of being alone with a gentleman." Now Zhen Bao leaned back against the doorknob, his hand behind him, as if he had no intention of leaving. "I've never pretended to be a gentleman. A real gentleman doesn't need to pretend." She had opened her door, but then reached back to flick off the hall light. Zhen Bao stood in the darkness, thoroughly shaken. In spite of his excitement, she was gone. Zhen Bao tossed and turned all night, telling himself that it wouldn't matter, that Jiaorui and Rose were not the same, that a married woman who did what she liked was the loosest of women, that he didn't owe her anything. But he felt a sense of duty toward himself. When he thought about Rose, he thought of that night in the car in the open fields when his conduct had been so sterling. How could he shrug off the man he'd shown himself to be? 2 weeks passed, and all at once the weather turned warm. Zhen Bao went to work in his shirt sleeves, but before long it started to sprinkle and a chill blew in. He went back during his lunch break to get his coat. It had been hanging on the rack in the hall, but now it was gone. He searched and searched for it, and eventually he started to worry. He saw that the living room door had been left ajar. He pushed it open, and there was his coat hooked on the frame of an oil painting. Jairui was sitting on the sofa beneath, quietly lighting a cigarette. Surprised, Zhen Bao quickly retreated, squeezing himself out of sight. But he couldn't resist taking another peek. Jairui, it turned out, wasn't smoking at all. There was an ashtray on the arm of the sofa, and she struck a match, lit the stub of an old cigarette, and watched it burn all the way down. When at last it singed her fingers, she threw the butt aside, lifted her fingers to her mouth, and blew on them lightly, a look of utter contentment on her face. The cloisonne ashtray, he realised, was from his room. Why would you use a beautiful cloisonne thing as an ashtray? The workmanship in it's just exquisite. What a dreadful thing to waste. Using it as an ashtray? It's an outrage. Mama T has spoken. Oh well, rich people and their whimsies, flimsy whimsies and their bored little games and their genocidal tendencies and their complicit complacency with genocidal tendencies. Cloisonne ashtray. Astonishing. I suppose it's the same deal as shitting in a toilet made out of gold, isn't it? Equally absurdist. Anyway, Mama T has got weird sensibilities about certain things. I'm opulent, don't get me wrong, but there's a certain place for everything. You don't put your trash in exquisite quality handmade goods. Just saying. Oh, I find that offensive. Just as offensive as giving handmade beautiful gifts to people and then you never see them wearing it, or the time Jared burnt a beautiful tapestry I made out of sheer bloody spite, and yet we remained friends afterwards because I was a lot more forgiving when I was younger. Oh, all together now. Oh, anyway. Zhen Bao was bewildered, and he slipped away like a thief. Although to his credit, last time anyway I went out with him, he does wear the beautiful pieces of jewellery that I made for him. I hope he still cherishes them and hasn't burnt them or thrown them away because we're not friends anymore. It was his idea to drift off, not mine. I would never ever have abandoned him. Not really. Might get bad-tempered about things from time to time, but I would never have given up on such a long friendship. Anyway, it doesn't matter now, does it? None of it matters. COVID changed everything and everyone, and it's an ugliness beyond worlds. People of Earth. So we'll carry on with the story and rest what beauty and comfort and solace and gnosis we can from this constant fracas. Right. Zhen Bao was bewildered and he slipped away like a thief. Seemed incomprehensible at first, and even after thinking it through, he was mystified. Jairui, smitten, sitting near his coat, and letting the cigarette scent from his clothes waft down over her, as if that weren't enough. Hello, Magpie. As if that weren't enough, she'd lit his used cigarette butts. She really was a child, spoilt rotten, someone who'd always gotten whatever she wanted. And now that she'd run into someone with an ounce of resistance, she dreamed only of him. There's no seeds. Do you want me to get you some seeds? Okay, let me just finish this paragraph. The mind of a child and the beauty of a grown woman, the most tempting of combinations. Zhen Bao could no longer resist. Be back. I'm just going to get the birdie boys or girls some snacks. Right, what would you like? Would you like some seeds? The turkeys take it all, the crows take it all. What's there with the little magpie? We'll see, my ones. We'll see. What we got? You're curious, aren't you? Come on then. Come on. I've got some seeds for you. Come on, little one. Get you some water too, like that. Water. Schafft nein, bist du so? Nein. Birdie now. Thank you, Mama too. You're welcome, little Maggie. Right, you've got water and you've got seeds. Is that lovely? And this beautiful day gifted by the gods. We've had the most exquisite weather the last few days. I'm really enjoying it. It's been actually a bit hot for April. Kind of today's 29 degrees. Can't remember what yesterday was. The day before was 32. Like, whew. Normally by the time it rolls around to my birthday, it gets cooler, but it's been hot. But I'm not complaining. Enjoying every day as it comes, people of Earth. Every single day is a gift. Sometimes a nightmarish hellscape of a gift, and have to unravel it and deconstruct it and make sense of it. But sometimes it's a glorious. I mean, look at the sky. There's only one little cloud over there, sort of shaped like the letter M, sort of, kinda. Right, it's already shifted into some other form, that cloud. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. How quickly they change shape. It's one thing my de facto stepfather Cornelis, or Kees van der Graft, he didn't believe in spirits or the paranormal, didn't believe in magic, didn't believe in any of that, but he did sometimes like to watch the clouds and point out all the different shapes that appeared in them. Took delight in that like a child. It's funny what these unbelievers, skeptics actually believe in. Although he wasn't reading fortunes from them, he was just observing all the different pareidolia type shapes that would appear. It's fun sometimes to do that. And now we're beset by noise from the workmen. And we can hear the currawongs back. I can hear you, currawong. I can't see you, but I can hear you're there. Seems to be a permanent visitor to the garden now. It's been over a week. Well, that's lovely. And the magpie is really happy with the seeds I gave her. Look. Are you a happy magpie? Yes, Mama T. It's very delicious. Good birdies. Right. He's still at dinner in a restaurant and arranged to meet several friends there. But the longer he sat in the crowd, the more insipid he found the talk, the more detestable the company. He was impatient throughout the meal, and afterward he jumped on a bus to go back to the apartment. Zhao Rui was playing the piano, Shadow Waltz, a tune popular at the time. Hands thrust into his pockets, Zhen Bao paced the balcony. The lamp on the piano lit up Zhao Rui's face. He had never seen her looking so peaceful. Zhen Bao hummed along with the piano, but she seemed not to hear. She just kept playing, beginning a new tune. Zhen Bao didn't have the courage to sing. Standing in the doorway, he watched Zhao Rui for a long time, tears welling up in his eyes, because he and she were really in the same place now. Two people together, body and soul. He wished that she'd look up and see his tears, but instead she kept on playing. Zhen Bao started to worry. He came over to turn the pages, intending to distract her. She paid no attention. She wasn't even looking at the music. She knew it all by heart and was focusing only on the unhurried flow of it from the tips of her fingers. Suddenly, Zhen Bao was angry and afraid. It was as if there were no connection between them. He sat down next to her on the piano bench, put his arm around her and pulled her close. The music stopped abruptly. She tilted her face, all too skillfully. They kissed. Zhen Bao's passion mounted. With a deafening crash, he pushed her down onto the keyboard. There was a chaotic tempest of sound. Surely this was different from all the other times she'd been kissed. Zhao Rui's bed was too fancy for Zhen Bao. He didn't sleep well on the thick bedding. Even though he rose early, he still felt as if he'd overslept. Combing his hair, he found a sliver of clipped fingernail, a tiny red crescent moon. She'd scratched him with her long nails as he was drifting off to sleep. He'd seen her sitting on the bed, clipping them. Had there been a moon that night? He hadn't checked, but it must have been a red crescent moon. After that, he came straight home after work, sitting on the top of a double-decker bus and facing the setting sun. The window pane a sheet of light as the bus roared toward the sun, toward his happiness, his shameful happiness. How could it not be shameful? His woman ate another man's rice, lived in another man's house, went by another man's name. But feeling that he shouldn't be doing this only made his happiness more perfect. It was as if he'd fallen from a great height. An object that falls from high above is many times heavier than its original weight. Jiao Rui, struck by that startlingly great weight, was knocked dizzy. "I really love you," she said. But she was mocking him still, just a little. "Want to know something? Every day when I sit here waiting for you to come back, I hear the elevator slowly clanking its way up. When it goes past our floor without stopping, it feels like my own heart's gone up, that it's just hanging in mid-air. But when the elevator stops, are you singing to me, little one? Is it a thank you for the food? You're most welcome. I'm happy to share with you. They tell me there's a great famine coming and we must all be terrified. But in the meantime, while we can eat, we shall eat. You, me, and all the other birdies. Yes, as an act of defiance for no other reason, we shall eat and enjoy every moment of every day, little feathery one. And fuck the haters." "Yes, my little baby boy, you're very tame. He's coming up to see me. You're coming to see me up on the table? Come on then." No, he thought about it again. Doesn't want to get too close, and fair play too. Human beings are fickle creatures. You get too close, they turn savage, don't they, darling? Very often they do. Look at you, you came back up here after all. Oh, you're a pretty birdie. Oh, you're my pretty birdie. Yes, but you can't upset my little Bo and my little Kermie. They're my birdies. They stay in a cage because they can't survive in the wild. They're handicapped like the mama too. Yes, I know. Oh, and the lorikeets are here too. Oh, the whole family is here. I look like Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, don't I? Complete with the poisoned apple. Well, we chewed that up and spat it out, did we not? Blessed be. Mother, we're fresh out of poisoned apples. Right, happy thoughts, happy thoughts. The other little magpie's eating now. Wasn't that cute how he came up to thank me? I take that as a thank you, getting up on the table and sitting with me. He's checking out the little paddling pool that I have for the birdies now. Probably going to have a swim. Why not? It's like a resort, but for birdies. Well, I can't afford Biarritz or the Riviera or even go to Bali or anywhere, so I had to make my own little resort here at Sacred Space, Titonia's Realm. On this gorgeous, magnificent day. When it goes past our floor without stopping, we're talking about the elevator, it feels like my own heart's gone up, like it's just hanging in mid-air. But when the elevator stops, before it reaches our floor, it seems like my breath's been cut off. So, there's an elevator in your heart. It looks as though your heart is still an apartment. Jaorui smiled gently, then walked over to the window and looked out, hands clasped behind her back. After a moment, she said, "The house that you wanted has been built." "You're coming to thank me too, little one?" "It's very polite of you. You magpies are much more appreciative than even the crows are." "Yes." "Lovely birdie boy or girl." Right. At first, Zhenbao didn't understand. When he did, he was staggered. He'd never been one to fool around with words, but now he tried something new. Taking a pen from the desk, he wrote, "Happy, heartwarming, many congratulations on your new home." And yet he couldn't really say that he was pleased. The thrill of pleasure had made his whole body sing, but all at once it was quiet. Now there was only a desolate calm. He felt sated and empty at the same time. When they embraced again, Jaorui wrapped herself around him. She held him so tightly that she blushed. It's the same, isn't it? Even if there's no love. If I could be like this with you, without any real feeling of love, you'd certainly lose all respect for me. She gripped him still more tightly. Don't you feel the difference? Don't you? Of course I do. But actually he couldn't tell. The old Jaorui had been too good at feigning love. Never before had she been in love like this. Even she didn't know why she loved Zhenbao so much. She'd watch him closely, her gaze both tender and mocking him and mocking herself. He was a man with a future, of course, a top-notch textile engineer. His working style was special, nose to the grindstone, too busy to lift his head. The foreign boss was constantly calling for him. Tong, Tong, where's Tong? We're being sung to. Well, you going to sing to the mama too? Yes, I know you're very interested in my birdie boys, and the crows are very interested in them too, but you cannot hurt them. I simply won't allow it, because they're my babies. Mine's. My babies. Look at this. They are really quite adorable. Yes, yes, you got a fright when I moved the phone. You're on candid camera. I'm filming you. You gonna sing me a song, Maggie Pie? Or Magpies? Oh, you're going off on their wanderings now. You're going off on your little wanderings? Eat some more seeds. Yes, when in doubt, nibble on seeds. Be a happy bird. I need to go and buy a few groceries today, and I really don't want to. I'm just exhausted. I really am. I guess I have enough food I could get through till Tuesday. Just worrying about food, actually. Worry. What will worry do? Won't change anything. I don't have a lot of money left either, because my Optus bill goes out today, so I'd be better to just stretch things out till Tuesday till I get paid again and take action then rather than worry. And it's all good. I get like this, I get a bit caught in some kind of mind fuck where, I obsess over not having enough food, and invariably I do. Sometimes I run out, but even when I run out, it's only for a day or two. So everything will be fine. Everything is beautiful. Life is good. And the birdies are well fed. And I'm well fed. All this talk of famine is just loose feeding and terror consciousness. If it happens, it happens. There's nothing I can do about it. Intermittent fasting might heal some of my spike protein ailments. Might lose a bit of weight. I don't want to lose weight that way, having it imposed upon me though. That's why I eat even more as a defiance. Oh dear goddess. It's a frightening thought though, what's happening in our world. It truly is. But here at Sacred Space, Titania's realm, the birds are eating and swinging on the swings and chewing all the seagrass off because they can, and having fun doing what birdies do, and everyone's happy. Everyone's happy, including me and my weird cosmic challenged manic denialist, rebellious, defiant, anarchist, revolutionary ways. I need a hug and $20 million. Probably settle for a hug. Can't even get those these days with so few and precious friends around me. Well, of course I do, he replies, but actually he couldn't tell. Oh, we read that. She was mocking him and mocking herself about the amount of love she felt for him. Right. He was a man with a future. Of course, a top-notch textile engineer. His working style was special. Nose to the grindstone, too busy to lift his head. The foreign boss was, we read that, didn't we? Constantly calling him, Tong, Tong, Tong. Where's Tong? Jen Bell pushed a lock of hair from his forehead. eyes gleaming behind his glasses, the frames flashing. He liked summer, but even when it wasn't summer, he'd be so busy that he'd work up a sweat. The elbows and knees of his Western-style suit were full of creases like laugh lines. Chinese colleagues would complain about the shabby way he looked. He told Zhao Rui how competent he was and how efficient. She praised him, rubbing his hair. "Oh yes, my little one is really talented. But you know that. If you didn't, where would we be? It's in other ways that you're not so clever. I love you. Did you know that? I love you." He showed off in front of her, and she showed off in front of him. The only thing she was really good at was leading men on, like the tumbler who excelled at turning somersaults and turned somersaults for the Virgin Mary. Zhao Rui was sincerely pious. She offered up her art to her beloved. She'd provoke a man, and when he responded accordingly, she'd glance over at Zhen Bao with a humble smile, as if to say, "And this is what I know, and if I didn't, where would we be?" That Timmy son of hers was still in a sulk, and yet she found ways to tease him. Zhen Bao understood what she was doing. It was tiresome, he thought, but he put up with it because it was just her childishness. Being with Zhao Rui was like living with a swarm of teenagers, enough to make you old in no time. Sometimes they discussed her husband's return. Zhen Bao would wear a dark, defeated smile. His eyes and his eyebrows drooped. His whole face hung down in a mess like a mop. The entire relationship was illicit, but he kept using the sinfulness as a spur, pushing himself to love her even more fiercely. Zhao Rui didn't understand the full nature of his feeling, but it made her happy to see him suffer. Back when she was a student in England, jumping out of bed, putting on lipstick without even bothering to wash her face and running out to see her boyfriends, men had of course threatened to kill themselves for her sake. "I spent the whole night pacing under your window," they'd say. "I couldn't sleep." That meant nothing, but making a man suffer for real, that was something else again. One day she said, "I've been thinking about how to tell him when he comes back," just as if it had already been decided that she would inform Shi Hong about everything, divorce him and marry Zhen Bao. Zhen Bao wasn't brave enough to say anything then, but his dark, defeated smile was not having the desired effect. So, later on, he said, "Let's not rush into this blindly. Let me talk to a lawyer friend of mine first. Get things clear. You know, if this isn't handled properly, there could be quite a price to pay." As a businessman, he felt that merely by uttering the word lawyer, he'd gotten seriously involved in something, much too seriously. But Zhao Rui didn't notice his qualms. She was full of confidence, sure that once the problem on her side was solved, it would all be clear sailing. Zhao Rui often called him at his office. She had no restraint, and it upset him. One day she phoned to say, "Why don't we go out later and have some fun?" Zhen Bao wanted to know why she was so happy. "You like me to wear those prim and proper Chinese fashions, don't you? I had a new outfit made and it came today. I want to wear it someplace." "How about a movie?" He and some colleagues had chipped in together to buy a small car, and Zhao Rui liked to go out for a ride. She had a plan that Zhen Bao was going to teach her to drive. "After I've learned, I'll buy a car too," she announced. So Shi Hong would buy it for her? Her words stuck in Zhen Bao's craw. He couldn't quite digest it. Zhao Rui didn't seem all that excited about seeing a movie. "Okay," she said, "if we can take the car." "So what are your feet for?" he laughed. "Chasing you." And she laughed too. After that, things got busy at the office. Zhen Bao had to get off the phone. But that day, another colleague happened to need the car, and Zhen Bao was always self-sacrificing, especially when it came to pleasures. He was dropped off at the street corner. From the apartment window, Zhao Rui saw him stop to buy the evening paper, though she couldn't tell if he was looking at ads for the movies. She rushed out to meet him at the street door. "If we don't have the car, we can't make it to the 5:15 movie. Let's forget about it." Zhen Bao looked at her and smiled. "So do you want to go someplace else? You look great." Zhao Rui hooked her arm in his. "Won't it be fun just to walk along the avenue?" But Zhen Bao kept fretting, wanting to know how she felt about this place, then that one. They passed a Western-style restaurant with music. She turned it down. "The truth is, I'm pretty broke these days," he said. "Oh dear," she laughed. "If I'd known that, I'd never have gotten mixed up with you." Just then, Zhen Bao recognised an old foreign lady that he knew, someone through whom his family had sent money in packages when he was studying abroad. Mrs. Ash was British, but she'd married a Eurasian, which made her self-conscious and as British can be. She was tall and stooped and wore an elaborate dress, a foreign-style print that sagged around her frame and made her look like an old beggar. Her hat was a robin's egg blue, mottled with black, and she'd stuck a pearl-headed hat pin and a swallow feather in it. Under the hat was a circle of grey hair pressed flat like a wig, and her eyes looked as if they were made of pale blue porcelain. Her English came out very softly, her voice breathy and conspiratorial. Zhen Bao shook hands with her. "Are you still living in the same place?" he asked. "At first we were going to go home this summer, but my husband just can't get away." Going to England was going home, even though her husband's family had lived in China for 3 generations, and she herself had no living relatives in England. Zhen Bao introduced Zhao Rui. "This is Mrs. Shi Hong Wang." Wang was in Edinburgh also, and Mrs. Wang spent many years in London. I'm living at their place now. Mrs. Ash was accompanied by her daughter. Jeanne Bao, of course, had considerable experience with mixed blood girls. Miss Ash pursed her red lips, but didn't say much. She had dark brown eyes peering out of a pointed white peach face. A woman who doesn't yet have her own household, her own portion of worry and duty and joy, will often have that watchful, waiting look. And yet Miss Ash, young as she was, didn't yearn for domesticity. She wasn't a girl with a heart launched like an arrow toward home. Career girls in the city often have a harried look, and Miss Ash's eyes were puffy, her face drawn and pale. In China, as elsewhere, the constraints imposed by the traditional moral code were originally constructed for the benefit of women. They made beautiful women even harder to obtain, so their value rose, and ugly women were spared the prospect of never-ending humiliation. Women nowadays don't have this kind of protective buffer, especially not mixed blood girls whose status is so entirely undefined. There was a razor edge to Miss Ash's exhausted, peering gaze. Zhao Rui could see at a glance that, in going home, mother and daughter would be headed straight into the English lower middle class. But they were Jeanne Bao's friends, and she was eager to make a good impression. Also, for some reason, the presence of other females made her feel like a proper woman again. She was a full-status wife. She ought to exude an air of dignified affluence. Jeanne Bao rarely saw her smiling so serenely, almost like a movie star. And suddenly she became a sapphire from whose depths a flickering lamp draws waves of light and shadow. Zhao Rui was wearing a cheongsam of dark purple-blue georgette and a little heart-shaped gold pendant gleamed faintly at her breast, cold and splendid, as if she had no other heart. Jeanne Bao looked at her, and he was both pleased and suspicious. If there'd been a man around, how different things would have been. Mrs. Ash asked about Mrs. Tong, and Jeanne Bao said, "My mother's health is fine. She still looks after the whole family." He turned to Zhao Rui. "My mother often does the cooking, and she's a very good cook. I always say we're very lucky to have a mother like that." Whenever he praised his widowed mother, he was reminded of the many years of grievous hardship his family had endured, and he couldn't help gnashing his teeth. He smiled, but as the full weight of his ambitions bore down on him, his heart was like a rock. Mrs. Ash asked about his younger brother and sisters. Dubao is a good kid. He's in technical school now, and later on our factory might send him to England to study. Even the two sisters were praised. The whole family was ideal, until Mrs. Ash had to exclaim, "You really are something. I've always said that your mother must be very proud of you." Zhen Bao was suitably modest. He asked how things were going for everyone in the Ash family. Seeing the newspaper rolled up in his hand, Mrs. Ash inquired if there was any news this evening. Zhen Bao handed her the paper, but her eyesight was so poor that even when she held it at arm's length, she still couldn't make anything out. She asked her daughter to read it for her. "I was planning to take Mrs. Wang to see a movie, but there aren't any good ones," Zhen Bao said. In front of other people, his attitude toward Zhao Rui was a little stiff. He wanted to show that he was only a family friend. But Mrs. Ash's quiet, watchful eyes made him feel he was giving everything away. Zhen Bao leaned close to Zhao Rui. Very familiarly he said, "I'll make it up to you another time, okay?" He looked at her with shining eyes and laughed. Immediately after he was sorry, as if he'd gotten too excited while talking and sprayed spit in someone's face. He had always taken this Miss Ash for a keen observer. She was young, and she had nothing, not even a personality. She was just waiting for the approach of everything in the world. Already its huge shadow had fallen across her otherwise expressionless features. Zhao Rui was young, and she had all sorts of things, but somehow they didn't count. She seemed scatterbrained, like a child who goes out and picks dozens of violets, one by one, gathers them into a bunch, and tosses them all away. Zhen Bao had only his future to bank on, a future he prepared for all on his own. How could he bear to see it thrown to the wind? Rich young men and women are free to be careless. Security is an inheritance for them. But for him, it was not so easy. The four of them walked slowly down the same street, Mrs. Ash in the safety and comfort of a room full of flowered wallpaper, while the three young people faced menace on every side. It boomed beneath them like a drum. It was not yet dark, but the neon lights were shining. In the daylight, they looked even more artificial, like costume jewellery. They passed a shop with lamps for sale, innumerable lamps under the neon glow. The whole place blazing with light. It's a bit odd, wasn't it? Drove in here and then backed out. Annoying. Oh, he's going to back up again. Behind the tin grill of a snack shop, a waitress leaned forward to pick up a piece of pastry. Her rouge-red cheeks looked good enough to eat. Did old people also see it like that? Walking next to the old woman, Zhen Bao couldn't help feeling the brevity of youth. A row of shiny round head spikes, their heads indented on four sides, marked off a pedestrian crosswalk. Beside them, the asphalt road looked as dark and soft as rubber. Zhen Bao swayed along, letting his body go. He couldn't tell whether it was his own gait that was rubbery or the road underfoot. Mrs. Ash praised the fabric of Zhao Rui's dress. Then she said, "I saw a piece like that last time I was at the Hui Lu Fine Goods shop. Dolly turned it down because she thought it was too dark. I still wanted to buy it, but then I thought, well, I don't often have an occasion for wearing such clothes." She didn't seem to feel that what she said was sad, but the others all fell silent, unable to respond. "So Mr. Ash must be very busy?" Zhen Bao finally asked. "Oh, yes. Otherwise we'd go home for a visit this summer. But you really can't get away. Some Sunday when I have the car, I'll come and fetch you all and take you to Jiangwan to have some Chinese snacks made by my mother." "That would be wonderful. My husband simply dotes on Chinese things." She sounded just like a rich foreign visitor. No one would have guessed that her husband was half Chinese. After saying goodbye to Mrs. Ash and her daughter, Zhen Bao remarked to Zhao Rui as if in explanation, "That Mrs. Ash is a really good person." Zhao Rui looked at him and smiled. "I think you are a really good person." Where are we? "Just how am I so very good?" Suddenly his face was right in hers. "I'll tell you, and don't get angry. When a woman sees a man who's good like you, she wants to fix him up with someone else. She doesn't even think of keeping him for herself." "So you don't like good men?" "When a woman likes a good man, it's because she thinks she can trap him." "Oh ho, so you're planning to trap me, is that it?" Zhao Rui paused. "Pardon me." She gave him a sideways glance and started to smile, but she stopped. "This time, it's the bad girl who's been trapped." That sideways glance, those soft words, they were intolerable to him at the moment. Later that evening, stretched out in Zhao Rui's bed, he thought about the meeting with Mrs. Ash on the street, about his studies in Edinburgh, when his family had sent him money and packages, and about how it was now time to repay his mother. He wanted to get ahead, move up in the world, and the first step was to rise in his profession. After he'd made it to a suitably high position, he'd contribute something to society. For instance, he could set up an industrial science school for poor boys, or a model textile factory in his hometown, Jiangwan. Vague as it all was, even now he had a fuzzy intimation of the warm welcome awaiting him, not just from his own mother, but from a whole world of mothers, tearful, with eyes only for him. Zhao Rui was fast asleep, curled up close to him, the sound of her breathing aloud in his ear. Suddenly she seemed a thing apart and somehow alien. He sat up on the edge of the bed and groped around in the dark until he found a cigarette and lit it. He didn't think Zhao Rui had noticed, but in fact she was awake. After a long while she reached out, feeling for his hand. "Don't worry," she said softly. "I'll be good." She laid his hand on his shoulder. Her words made him weep, but the tears too were a thing apart and somehow alien. Zhen Bao didn't answer, letting his hands roam over familiar places. As soon the sun would rise, the city was full of the muffled noise of crowing cocks. The next day they spoke again of her husband's return. "Anyway, he'll be back sometime in the next few days," Zhao Rui said with great certainty. Zhen Bao asked her how she knew, and only then did she tell him that she'd sent Shi Hong a letter by airmail telling him everything and asking for her freedom. Zhen Bao gasped, the sound coming from deep within. He stood up and ran out onto the street. When he looked back at the towering apartment building with its tall, flowing red and grey lines, it looked like a roaring train, incredibly huge and barreling straight down upon him, blocking out sun and moon. The situation was beyond repair. He thought that he had it all under control and that he could stop whenever he wanted. But now things had rushed forward on their own. There was no use in even arguing. The worst thing was that he didn't even want to argue, not when he was with her. It was so clear then that they loved each other and should go on loving each other. It was only when she wasn't there that he could think up all sorts of reasons against it. Right now, for instance, it struck him as all too likely that he'd been played for a fool in a deeper game with her true love, Timmy's son. She pulled the wool over Zhen Bao's eyes by saying that it was because of him that she wanted a divorce. And now, if there was a scandal, his future would be ruined. He walked a long way without caring where. At a little restaurant he had a few drinks and a bite to eat. When he came out, his stomach hurt. He got into a rickshaw thinking he would visit Du Bao in his dormitory, but in the rickshaw his stomach felt worse still. He lost control of himself. The tiniest tremor of pain was more than he could bear, and he panicked. Imagining he had cholera, he told the rickshaw driver to take him to the nearest hospital. Once he'd been admitted, he informed his mother. She rushed to the hospital right away. The next day she came bearing lotus root powder and grape juice that she'd bought for him. Zhao Rui showed up as well. His mother suspected that something was going on between them, and she made sure to scold him in front of Zhao Rui. Getting sick to your stomach, that's nothing in itself, but I tossed and turned all night worrying about you, a grown man, and you still don't know how to take care of yourself. How on earth am I supposed to look after you all the time? And if I just let you do as you please, I'll be constantly worrying. But if you had a wife, I wouldn't have to. Mrs. Wang, please tell him. He'll listen to what his friends say, even if he won't listen to me. Oh dear. Here I've been waiting so long till you'd finished your schooling and begun your career. And now that you're finally getting somewhere, don't think you can just let go, let everything fall apart. You have to earn the respect you receive. Mrs. Wang, please, you tell him for me. Zhao Rui pretended not to understand Chinese. She just stood there, smiling. Zhen Bao's thoughts were in fact very similar to his mother's. But when he heard her, he felt that the way she put things was somehow humiliating. He was embarrassed and found an excuse to send her away. That left him with Zhao Rui. She walked over to the bed and leaned over the white metal railing, her whole body a painful question mark. Zhen Bao rolled away impatiently. He couldn't explain, and he couldn't escape his mother's logic. Zhao Rui closed the curtain, and the sunlight on his pillow turned to cool shadow. She didn't leave, but stayed to nurse him, bringing tea, water, the bedpan. Just see how much longer. I might split this up soon because I'm getting tired. Right. The enamel basin was ice cold against his skin. Her hands were just as cold. When he happened to glance her way, she seized the chance to speak. Don't be afraid. He hated her saying that he was afraid. His expression changed and she stopped. More time passed. I have really changed, she said. Again he shifted uncomfortably to keep her from speaking. I won't bring you any trouble, I promise. And then, you can't leave me, Zhen Bao. Her broken sentences hung in mid-air like the pendulums of several clocks, each ticking along at a different speed, each following its own logic and reaching its own conclusions, each rising up at a different moment, each hammering its bell at a different time. So to Zhen Bao it seemed that the room was filled with Zhao Rui's voice, even though she had long since fallen silent. Evening came, and with the lamp still unlit, she threw herself on him and wept. Even in her humiliation, she had strength. Through the blanket and the sheet, he could feel the firmness of her arms. But he didn't want her strength. he already had his own. She threw herself across his waist and legs, and she wailed. Her hair, a mess of soft, loose curls, exuded heat like a brazier. She was like a child who's been wronged, who cries so much that she can't stop, doesn't know how to, hoarsely crying on and on, having forgotten why she started to cry in the first place. For Zhen Bao, it was the same. No, 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 don't go on like this. It won't do. The words required an enormous struggle. He was fighting hard to subdue the surging waves of longing. He spent all his strength in saying, no, 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 even though he'd forgotten what it was he meant to refuse. But finally, he found something suitable to say. With great effort, he raised his knees, making her get up. Jiao Rui, he said, if you love me, then you have to consider my situation. I can't cause my mother pain. Her way of thinking is different from ours, but we have to think about her, since she has only me to depend on. The world would never forgive me, and Shi Hong is, after all, my friend. Our love can only be love between friends. What happened before is my mistake, and I'm very sorry. But now you've written and told him without letting me know. That's your mistake. Jiao Rui, what do you say? When he comes, tell him you were only fooling, that you just wanted him to come back early. He'll believe you if he wants to. Jiao Rui lifted a red, swollen face and stared. In a flash, she stood straight up, apparently astonished to find herself in such a state. She took a small mirror out of her purse, glanced into it while tilting her head this way and that, tossed her hair back loosely, wiped her eyes with a handkerchief, blew her nose, and without looking at him once, walked out. Zhen Bao didn't sleep well that night, and with dawn came new awareness. It seemed as if someone had come during the night and fallen across him, weeping. At first he thought it was a dream, but then he realized that it was Jiao Rui. Probably she'd been there for a long time now, crying. The warmth of the woman's body lay over him like an eider-down quilt on satin sheets. He luxuriated in the moment, breaking out in a gentle sweat. When he was fully awake, Jiao Rui left without a word. He didn't say anything either. Later he heard that she and Wang Shihong had decided to divorce, but it all seemed very remote. His mother cried in front of him a few times, urging him to marry, and he put it off for a while, then finally agreed. His mother arranged the introductions. She's the one then, he said to himself, when he met Miss Meng Yan Li. And I'll break off there and I'll come back tomorrow to finish off this story. Yes, it's another full video, so blessed be from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. Be happy, be blessed, be free, be wild, and be with the ones who love you truly, and slough off the rest. There's nothing worse than cowardice and false lovers. Had a lifetime of that. But don't worry, the mama tea's happy in her garden. Gonna have a nice cup of tea and rustle up something for lunch now. Bye for now.